Today we talked about long division. The steps for long division are divide, multiply, subtract, check, and bring down. And you can remember this by remembering, does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers? And just writing down the first letter of each word in that sentence, and then you'll remember the steps: divide, multiply, subtract, check, bring down. So let's start out with this problem. 432 divided by 67. So the main thing that we're doing, the main emphasis on this lesson is that we have two digit divisors. So we have two digits in our divisor. Our divisor is 67. Our dividend is 432. So I'm going to do this kind of the long way. So just to show you, this is for students who don't know exactly where to put the numbers up here. And I'm going to use zeros as placeholders in the beginning. Some kids don't need this, some do, so I'm going to use it. But if you don't need it, you don't have to use it. 60. So first thing we do is divide. So we say, how many times does 67 go into 4? Well, I can't. 67 does not go into 4. I can't subtract 67 from 4, for example. So that's a 0. I put a 0 here. That's my divide step. Then I do my multiply step. My multiply step is to multiply the last thing that I wrote down on the top here, which is the 0, multiply it by the divisor. 0 times 67 is 0. So that's my multiply step, and I put my answer to that, my product, right here. Then I subtract that from the number above. 4 minus 0 is 4. That's my subtract step. Now I have to check my answer. Is 4 less than 67? Yes, it is. If this difference is less than my divisor, then it's the right answer. Then it's probably the right answer. So if it's bigger than my if it's bigger than my divisor, then I did something wrong up here and I have to go back. That's why we check. So you don't want to do something wrong at the beginning and then just everything's wrong after that. The next thing I do is I bring down the next number in my dividend. So I bring down the 3. And after that, I start again with my divide, multiply, subtract, check, bring down steps. Now, how many times does 67 go into 43? 0 times. Because I can't subtract 67 from 43. When I'm asking how many times a number goes into another number, I'm asking how many times could I subtract this from that number? Well, I can't subtract 67 from 43 at all. So 67 does not go into 43. That's my divide step. My multiply step is to take the number I just wrote down, which is a 0, multiply it by my divisor, 67, and multiply them together, and I get 0. And I put the 0 here. That's my multiply step. Then I subtract, and I get 432, or excuse me, 43. And then I check that. Is 43 less than 67? Yes, it is. And then I bring down the 2. Then I get 432. And I go back up to my divide step. If I'm able to bring something down, then that means I have to keep going. I'm not done yet. When I'm not able to bring anything down, that's when I know I'm done with my division problem. Another way you can tell is there should be one number above each one of these numbers, unless you're not doing the leading zeros. So how many times does 67 go into 432? So if I'm not sure how many times 67 goes into 432, another way to think about it is how many times can I subtract 67 from 432? If I'm not sure, then I will just guess and check. So on the side here, I write 67, and I just pick a number in the middle, maybe 5. And I say 7 times 5 is 35. 6 times 5 is 30 plus 3, and I get 33. So I get 335. Now, that is not very close to 432, so it's much less. I want to get as close as I can to 432 without going over. 5 is a little bit low, so I'm going to try 6. 67 times 6. I'm guessing and checking, and that's perfectly fine. 7 times 6 is 42. 6 times 6 is 36, plus 4 is 40, so I get 402. That's very close to this. Let me try 7 just to make sure. 67 times 7. 7 times 7 is 49. 6 times 7 is 42. Plus 4 is 46. Okay, so I just went over. 469 is bigger than 432, so this is not it. This is too small, so this is not it. This is it. It goes in 6 times. 67 goes into 432 6 times. Okay, so I put my 6 up here. That's my divide step. My multiply step is, remember, it's the thing I just wrote down, times my divisor, 6 times 67, and well, I just did that over here, so my product is right here, 402, and I put the 402 below the 432, and then I subtract them. 2 minus 2 is 0, 3 minus 0 is 3, so I subtract, and I check, is 30 less than 67? Yes, it is. And then I bring down, oh, I can't bring anything down. There's nothing left. And having these arrows, writing down these arrows when you bring down is very helpful in that regard, because then you can tell what you've brought down already. If you have messy handwriting like I do, I have my remainder is 30, or what I have left over is 30, so that's my remainder. So my answer is 6 remainder 30. So let's do at least one more. So let's do number 7 here. 775 divided by 35. I'm just rewriting this in this format. So remember, we divide, multiply, subtract, check, bring down. Or, you know, if you can't forget, if you don't remember the order, just remember, does McDonald's sell cheeseburger? So 35 goes into 7 0 times. That's my divide step. 0 times 35 is 0. Then I subtract them. 7 minus 0 is 7. Then I check, is 7 less than 35? Yes, it is. And then I bring down the next number. And then I start from the divide step. How many times does 35 go into 77? Well, I'm not sure. I think I could probably subtract 35 from 77 2 times. So let me multiply this by 2 and see if it is close to 77 without going over. 5 times 2 is 10. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. I get 70. That's very close to 77, and it does not go over. So, whoops. So my divide step gives me a 2 up here. I multiply 2 times 35, and I already did that over here, so then I put the 70 underneath the 77. Then I subtract them. 77 minus 70 is 7. A lot of 7s. I subtracted them. Now I check. Is 7 less than 35? Yes, it is. Then I bring down the 5. Then I say, well, how many times does 35 go into 75? Well, I already did this work over here, and I know 35 times 2 is 70. That's very close to 75 without going over, so I think it probably goes in 2 times. So that's my divide step, and then I multiplied 2 times 35, which I did over here, and that is 70, which I put here. Then I subtract them. 75 minus 70 is 5. And then I check. 5 is less than 35, so that works out. And then I bring down. Oh, there's nothing to bring down. So I'm done. This is my remainder. This is my quotient up here, 22. So my answer is 22, remainder 5.